Okay, so when it comes to your project overall, there's nothing better sometimes than to generate a report based or focused on certain areas of your project. There are a number of interactive reports, meaning that we can generate a report and then kind of customize it to kind of fit exactly what we want to be able to see. But overall, we've got some pretty neat little reports. So I want to start out, first of all, with something that kind of gears itself towards kind of a resource overview as well as a task overview as well, because we can kind of flip back and forth between them. So let's just take a look at this first one. So what we'll do is we'll take the data that we have here. And by the way, this data is in the middle of, I guess, being tracked. We have a number of different tasks that have been completed, as you can see here with the check marks. A little bit further down, it gets a little bit more sparse to a point where we have nothing completed yet. So we've got a nice, kind of mix of what's going on in our pivot table or in our project here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back over into the report tab, all right? And we're going to go here and we're going to click on the resources, and then we're going to do the resource overview, just like that. And I mean, it's that fast. Now, what we're looking at in this first little panel here is we're looking at each of our different resources, looking at the amount of work, or the actual work that they have, which is in the blue, the remaining work that they have, which is in orange, and then also the baseline. In other words, what did we budget for them to be working? So that looks pretty cool. And what we can do with this, though, this is kind of geared towards the resources. Now, if I click onto the graph here, all right, this is actually, if you know anything about pivot tables, this is basically a pivot chart that's been kind of developed here. And you can kind of tell that because of the fact that you get the little pivot table panel off to the side there. Now, you'll notice on here, it's set for resources right now, and that's what we're looking at here. I can actually just kind of click over here onto tasks, and that flips it to tasks. Now we're looking at the different phases that we've got, the 5 phases, actual work, remaining work, and then the baseline as well. Now over here on this next graph, this graph here has to do with, we got each of our resources and how much of their work they've completed so far. So a few of them have finished, it seems like, and there's a few that are still got more work to go. And that would be if we would continue to kind of work on completing some of those other tasks that you saw there without the check marks. Now, if we go and click onto this graph, all right, then we can see the panel pop up there, and this is kind of focused on resources. But if we click on to tasks, then we can actually see how much of the work has been done. So it looks like phase 1 had a few that were unchecked, were not finished, so we can see that's not totally 100%. Phase 2 and phase 3 seem to be finished, and of course phase 4 had some, and phase 5 definitely had nothing checked off, so we can see that as well. Now if we go just a little bit further down, we have this little panel. So of course what this is showing is are each of the resources. When did they start working? What was like their first task? What was that starting date? What was the last thing that they worked on as far as what was the ending date? And it shows how much work they've got left to go. So you can see here Gomez and Ray and Crew of 2 and the Rat Packers and the Cinco Swarm and the Ginger 3 all have more work to do. Well, you saw when we looked at the project screen, a lot of those tasks were not complete. They didn't have the check marks in there, so that's what you're seeing there. Now, I can go, when I click onto this, I can go back over here on the side, and I can click on to, instead of having resources being displayed here, I can have our tasks, and there they go on that. Now, we can actually modify this a little bit, add a little bit more to it. We could actually go and, well, so what it's showing right now is the remaining work that we have in there. So what we could do is show what the total actual work was. In other words, how many hours, how many man hours were in each of these total. Not just what we have remaining to be done, but what was the initial big amount there, right? So what you could do is we go down here into the work area here, and we can go ahead and tell it we want to see the actual work. So we can click onto that. There's the actual work. We could also look at the budget work. All right. Oh, we didn't have a budget in there, so that's something else. All right, so we got that. That looks good. We can also look at the actual the cost here, so we can actually throw that in as well. So we go over to the cost and say actual cost, and we can look at that as well. And now I can flip from looking at the tasks to looking at the resources with the same information. How about that? Now you might say, well, what if you wanted both? How can we get both? Well, what I'll do is I'll shrink this one down just a little bit. I'm going to bring it, go this way with it and see how far I can go. This is just nothing more than a table here, see? So I can take that. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a duplicate of this, all right? Now, probably the easiest way to do this would be while it's selected as a whole there, I can hit Control Copy or Control C and then Control V. Not going to work. All right, then we'll do a different way. We're going to point on it like right here. All right. Now, remember what I do here. What you're going to do is you've got the crosshair on there, right? That means you can move. Now I'm going to hold down the mouse on it. I'm going to drag it over to this side over here. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Control key, let go of the mouse, let go of the Control key, and look at that, I've got a duplicate in there. So now I can take that, drag it down a little bit. I could even take maybe, and by the way, then once I have that, then I can go back, and while that's selected, go back to task on that, and there we go. Then what I can do is I can just take and make a copy of this here. So I'll click over here, hold down my Control key, click there. Oop. We'll do the Shift key. So I click the bottom one there, click the top one, holding down the Shift key. Okay, let me do that again so that you have it here. You click on the bottom one there, hold down the Shift key, hit the top one there. Now they're both selected. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to point to where I've got the crosshair over here, hold down the mouse, drag it over to here, and then I'm going to hold down my Control key, let go of the mouse, and now I've got a duplicate. And there we are. And then what I can do is I can change this one from resource status, I'll just double click it, to task status, and then remaining work for all work. And I could say, on the bottom one there, on that one, tasks. All right. I can make it small too. TASK. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do is just make this just a little bit less wide because it's hanging over just a little bit. Oop, wrong way. There, kind of bring it back about right there. Okay. Now I want to go ahead and I want to print this. All right. So all you do is you click on a file, click on a print, right over there, and there you go. And then you go ahead and just hit the print button and got it on a piece of paper. The only problem with this one though, if you'll notice, it says page 104 down there. So if I go to my multiple page display here, it's pretty much coming down into there. So I don't know, it'd be something you can think about. Maybe you could go ahead and say, you know what, maybe I don't need this report or this graph here, so you can get rid of the graph, put that over on that side, put this down over there, and you're set. So anyway, so it still looks pretty good nonetheless, but that's how easy it is to kind of manipulate the reports and get them to look the way that you want to see the information displayed. So appreciate you watching the video. Take care. Oh, by the way, if you're still there, sorry. If you want to go back to your regular view of your Gantt chart, all you have to do is just go back here and click that, and takes you right back. All right. Thank you. Take care.